everybody, my name is Emma and today I wanted to talk to you about how I edited the audio for my audiobook using Garageband. So I made a previous video a couple of weeks ago where I gave some hints and tips on how I recorded my audiobook, so how I made a little sound studio, the equipment that I use, some hints and tips and all sorts of stuff. So if you haven't already seen that, I'll link it below. You might want to have a look at that one first. Today I'm just concentrating on editing. So I use Garageband because I have a Mac and Garageband comes free on it, and also it's just a program I've used before. So it's quite a straightforward one to use and it works. There are alternatives. A lot of people use Audacity, so that might be something that works for you. And there's lots of tutorials and information about that one out there too. But if you're interested in the Garageband one, then stick around. Now there will be a third video in this series where I talk about how I upload all of my audio onto the sites that I use. So look out for that one, that will come in a few weeks. But yeah, today is centering on editing. So I'm going to run through how I do it. I'm not claiming to be any kind of expert, it's just that I've done it and it worked. I'm probably not doing all of the jazzy things that you can do with these programs. So if you know any good links, any tips, tricks, please do comment them below. But this is your basic how to get everything cleaned up. So if you make a mistake, how to cover that up, how to make everything sound as good as possible. But yeah, I'm sure that you can fiddle around with things a lot more if you have that kind of sound engineering knowledge. But this should act as a really good basis, a good starting block, and like I said, it worked for me, so that's why I want to share. Anyway, in a moment you will see my computer screen and I'll run through how I do it.
Hi, so here is my screen on GarageBand, and from introduction through these tracks up to audio 5, these are parts of my current audiobook that I'm working on that I've already recorded and edited. So what I've done is recorded an extra bit of audio for you today so I can walk through how I edit it, explain all the bits and pieces, and hopefully that will be helpful for you if you're trying to do the same thing. There's loads of guides out there on how to use GarageBand. This should give you a bit of a basic idea. You could also try Audacity, that works as well and is fairly similar. I've used it. I'm going to give you a few ideas from on here. So the first thing to say is that if you want, you can organise yourself by naming your sections. So this one I've called Introduction. I think this is the preface. So let's call that preface. I will actually check this. I'm just showing you how to do it. So you literally just double click and you can name those tracks. I suggest that you record your audiobook by making each of these tracks the next part in the audiobook. So if I'm recording the next chapter, I'll press the plus button. I'll make sure that my input is correct, output's correct, all of that, create, and then here that's added in there. But I could record a new piece of audio. That's not where I wanted it. Make sure you're down here when you add a new bit. There we go, like that. So then that would be your next chapter. If you want to get rid of it, I simply press the back button. Is that what it's called? The back button? The backwards arrow button. Good, well done. And that will just remove that. So Audio 6 is the one I've created for you today. You can see it's currently listening to me. I talked in my How to Record an Audiobook about the settings that I put in on here. You can change all of those. You can add a bit of bass or whatever you want. I'm quite happy with it, quite clean. But you can add any effects that you wish in there. But I talked about how I set those on that video, so you can have a look at that if you would like to. You can have a look at this track here and you can see a certain amount from the waveforms. I can see that the volume is fairly similar by the size of these waves. Now I didn't actually put my whole setup together today because I just wanted to record something quickly that I could show you how to edit. But that's actually not bad, it's fairly comparable. Now the audio actually starts here. I'm not sure what that little blip is, we'll check that in a moment. But ACX and other companies, they like to have your track starting less than a second in. So you can see here, this is 1 second. Now if you haven't already set it up to be in seconds, this is how you do it. So it might already, I think it naturally is on beats. So you can change it to time as I have. So there's a second. And so you want your track to start less than a second in. So I can bring that in line there. And then we can have a go at listening to it. So here goes.
Preface.
Right. So this is a little clunk of something. Now I have already in my editing journey recorded a bit of dead sound that I can copy in. So I'm literally going to paste. So you can record a bit of dead sound. In fact, I'll do it like this. There we go. That will do. Alternatively, I have a bit that I've already copied. So I could copy this. I could Control-C that and paste it in elsewhere. I've got a bit that I've preloaded. Look, there it is. So when I need to cover something up, I can paste that in. So that should have covered up that little blip there. The other thing is, I don't know if you noticed that sounded a bit fuzzy. Make sure you listen on good headphones. I've not got any headphones on right now. And actually, where the microphone is that I'm using to record me talking, you may not hear that well that's a bit fuzzy, but it is. So the way I deal with that is I put a noise gate on. Now, ACX like it to be at -60. I've found to kill off that fuzzy noise, it needs to be about -39. Play a bit, see what works. That's what I've found will get rid of that background noise. Let's have a listen. You might be able to tell, but you might not.
Preface.
Right, now could you hear that still really got a big clunk at the beginning? So if I have a look at this bit of track. So, right, what we can do. Did you see that I've got a little blip here as I press the space bar when I stopped that recording? So I can get rid of that, look, and then I can pull this bit of audio over. Let's see if that got rid of it.
Preface.
It did. So that gives you an example of what you can do to just get rid of things. So being able to see them helps. Now what you might want to do, I'm not listening to this too carefully, but you might find when you've got headphones on, can you see there's a little nodule there in the sound? So let's actually pull that over a wee bit, pull the dead sound over it. I can't tell whether that's something you can hear right now, but
preface.
Sounds pretty good to me. Obviously with headphones you can see that more clearly. Right, let's see where we go after preface.
It's dark here in my bedroom.
Good, that sounded fine. When you're listening, make sure you listen for things like mouth sounds. As I said in my last video, make sure that you have had plenty to drink and you haven't eaten anything that's like claggy and going to make it all sound gross. You might be able to hear things like your stomach rumbling, a bird tweeting outside, somebody banging around, anything like that. So I would suggest that you listen quite carefully to the whole thing in case there's a noise in the background. But that little bit sounded fine. Let's listen to the next bit.
The only...
Oh no, I coughed. That wasn't staged at all. Now we can actually see that I coughed because can you see how much bigger that is and like the chaotic waveform there? So select your bit of track, going to edit, split regions at playhead. Now this bit was all rubbish because I didn't even get through the sentence, so we're going to get rid of that. And then we can bring in our new bit of audio like so. Let's have a little listen to that. So press back.
It's dark here in my bedroom. The only light glows dimly from my laptop.
Okay, so that sounded okay. There was a bit of noise in between, so we can copy in our dead space. If I was recording this properly in my little sound booth, I wouldn't be getting all those kind of jangly noises, but I haven't been very careful in there. So sorry about that. But yes, you can cover it up.
It's dark here in my bedroom. The only...
So not bad. We've got a little bit of noise here. Let's see if that sounds a bit better.
The only light glow...
Sometimes when you hear that click, I don't know if you heard that, it's actually because you've put the dead noise too early, and so you can hear the sound between your talking or breathing cutting off. That's actually what that is. So sometimes allowing a bit of space gets rid of that if you've put some dead room tone over that noise. Okay, so that's dealt with. Moving on.
I begin to write these words, as I begin to write...
Right, so there I've made a mistake. If you make a mistake, just say the sentence again, exactly as I did there. So what I'm going to do is split the track like I did before. Now, do you see this is my first attempt at it? Here is my second attempt at it. Do you see it looks the same? So what you can do, if I shorten this, drag it over, line it up, there we go. And what you should find is that the pacing of your talking is correct if you do that. So, because you've dropped it in exactly where you were going to say it the first time around.
From my laptop. As I begin to write these words, my 12-week-old baby is sleeping in a Moses basket by my bed.
So there we go. Now there is a clonk where I hit the microphone. So actually, if this was real life and me not showing you a tutorial, I would re-record that sentence because there is yet another mistake because the microphone clonked because I was holding it in my hand instead of putting it down. So it gives you an example of how you can deal with that issue. You can then go on. Now I can see coming up there's a little clonk here. Let's have a look. No, I couldn't hear that, so we'll go with it.
Overwhelmingly beautiful, peacefully lying there, breathing softly.
So everything's fine. Now don't think there's any mistakes on the rest of this audio, but essentially that's all you do is you go through. If you need to split the audio up, you can split it, you can re-record. So I can hit record and record something over the top of it like this, and then I can edit that in. Obviously I was just talking a load of nonsense and that's not the actual book, but I could move that around and edit it into the right position. I can also get rid of what I've just recorded, and there's what was there before. So if there's a problem, of course you can also undo your last few actions. So essentially that's it. You kind of go through your audio, listening to it, moving things around, making sure that the gaps between what you say are okay. If you've got a big breath, you might want to put some room tone over it. Make sure it sounds clean. Make sure if you can hear any noises in the background, or you shift position and you can hear it, or something clonks or any of that, that you clean all that up. You can see where I've done this on the tracks above, where there are little breaks, where I've changed things. But yeah, I would suggest you listen to the entire thing.
Inspiration.
Then at the end, you want to have between 1 and 5 seconds of audio. So this finishes at about 24, the actual voice. We can in fact get that in line. There we go. Well, it's just after 24. So you might actually want to add in a little bit of room tone at the end to lengthen that, or you might not want to. You can see there, looks like there's some noise, but it doesn't seem that I can hear that, weirdly. Again, if you're concerned, you can put some sections of room tone over that to hide it. So make sure that you've got a long enough piece of audio at the end so that it's between 1 and 5 seconds at the end there. That bit that I copy and paste in, I can extend like this. It came from a longer bit of audio, so there we go. There's the audio it came from. Can you see that? So paste in your room tone as you need to. When you record your audio in the first place, try and leave yourself a bit of a tail that you can play with there. Then when you're all finished, you're going to want to export that. So we're going to select the track, export song to disk. If you've selected the track correctly, you should have this option, export the cycle area or the length of the selected regions. Make sure you have actually selected the entire track and not just one little part of it. That will mean that when you export it, it's not going to be the length of your entire song, because a Garageband is effectively treating it as a song with different tracks that are making it up. So you don't want this to be 20 minutes long if in reality it's 25 seconds long. So export the cycle area, put it in the format that you want, call it what you want. So this would be the preface, for example, save it wherever you want, and then that's there ready to be saved. Now then, a couple of other things to point out that you can do. I didn't say the fact that obviously you need to mute everything else while you're recording, but you do. So mute all of those. Otherwise, let's unmute one.
Chapter 3.
They'll play at the same time. So mute those. You have to actually have the region selected while you're editing it, the track selected. Okay, I'm going to show you an example if you wanted to add a sound effect. So this is my audio files for Lily the Limpet Gets Lost. So on here I added some wave noises. You can hear those coming in. And then the book starts after the wave noise.
Down on the beach in Littletown Bay.
So you can see how I've dropped in this sound. This is just some sound that I recorded literally at the beach. I added that fade in and out by using a site called BandLab, which you connect to your Facebook page. It's really easy to use. It's really easy to add fades. It's not so easy to do in Garageband, so I imported the wave noises into BandLab, added the fades, and then brought it in here. And then you can see where I've put that in. If you've got the two unmuted like that, then you'll hear both. I've got another little bit at the end. Look, can you see where I've added some room tone at the end? And then when you want to export it, export song to disk. And again, I've got that cycle area, that length of that selected region, but you'll be able to hear that sound as well. Okay, like so. And what I didn't show you before, look, you can watch that it's just recording that length. It's going to go all the way to the end and stop. So that piece of audio is going to just be the length of that track, and you'll be able to hear the bits that you've got unmuted at the same time. So that's how you export it. A little bit of how you could add some sounds or some music if you wanted to at the same time. A little bit of how to chop up the track, re-record bits over the top, move things around, all of that stuff. Oh, one last point before I go. You can, if you're moving things, and let's say you want to move more than one, then you can command, I'm using a Mac, it might be different on a Windows machine. Command, no, it's not command, that was a lie, it's shift, I think. There you go, shift, and you can select more than one, and then you can move all of those pieces of audio at once if you wanted to. So that's basically it. You can look up guides online for more information on all of that stuff, but actually it's quite fast to learn. You'll pick it up very quickly. It's an easy program to use. Like I said, Audacity is fairly similar, and you can just build up all of your tracks and then you're able to upload them onto whatever site you want to use. One last thing actually that I will include before I completely sign off is a little bit on what to say on your intros and outros, because I struggle to find this information anywhere. So if I mute these, for your intro, the bare minimum is to say the title of the book, who it's by, and who read it. You can add a little bit more if you want to, so let's see what I've got.
Lily the Limpet Gets Lost. Written by Emma Rosen and illustrated by Yevgenia Blackery. Narrated by Emma Rosen.
There you go. So you can put something along those lines. And then for the outro, I've put more information. I've put essentially a very similar thing. So
the end. You have been listening to Lily the Limpet Gets Lost.
Now the bare minimum requirement is that the end. So you can just say the end, but if you want to, you can have title of the book, author, illustrator if you've got one, who narrated it, and then you can add in a production copyright, and you can add in who published the book. So I found it quite hard to find that information, but make sure that as well as recording your book, all the content, you have got a little intro file and a little outro file with all that key information in. So I think that's everything. Do comment if you have found anything useful, you've got some good resources, all of that stuff. Hit like if you found this useful, and please do subscribe for more videos about reading, writing, bookish stuff, and I'll see you all soon for another video.